Welcome to Pleasure Playbook, the podcast. I'm Jenna Miller.
And I'm Steph Morris. We are two sex and intimacy coaches coming together to talk to you about all things love, sex, and relationships with a she comes first attitude.
Each episode combines empowerment and education from a trauma-informed perspective, offering answers to your burning questions in an entertaining and enlightening way.
Join us each week for a tantalizing mix of sexy insights and empowering knowledge on how to live a spicier and more delicious life.
So let's dive into this week's Pleasure Playbook. Welcome to a Pleasure Playbook. Today we are discussing one of my favorite topics, kissing. And I love kissing. I feel like it is an underrated sexual activity, and I wish there was more kissing involved in sex or in intimacy and longer smooches. Steph and I talk about kissing a lot and who's good kissers, what makes a good kiss, what types of kisses are out there. It's just such a beautiful, sensual activity, but then also it can be really hot and really erotic and really charged as well. So I love the spectrum of kissing. We're going to get into it today.
I'm excited to have this conversation because I feel like it's something that's not talked about a lot. And it's a very simple act, yet it's deeply erotic, sensual, connective activities, intimate, and there's more to it than I think what people maybe have thought about or given the thought to. There's different styles, there's different ways, there's different depths, and that can really inform your relationship with kissing. And often people can have different styles of kissing, which can make people determine or think someone is a good or bad kisser. And really it comes down to that style. And the more we talk about this, the more we can learn and grow and develop and evolve our kissing styles based on the intention and based on how we're feeling and what we're desiring in that moment. And that's what I think is really beautiful about this practice, that is something that we do a lot when we're younger. We do a lot typically in the beginning of relationships or dynamics, and that often can be the thing that slips away and drops away and only becomes part of sex. This is a really incredible practice. So let's get into it.
I think wow. I just started bleeding today, so I'm like, my brain in words are like not working right.
I get that.
I think kissing is so overlooked. Like you said, we think of it kind of as this juvenile act of intimacy, and then some people even evolve into having sex and not even kissing at all, right? You've been with your partner, it's like you have sex and maybe you haven't even shared a kiss. And I've been there. I know that what that's like, and I just want to let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to the basics, set a really strong foundation. This is also how you typically first engage with a person. So if you're forming intimacy with someone, physical intimacy, usually there's touching first, and then there's kissing, and then there's more. And these are the building blocks to creating a really good connection with someone. And you want to know what's important to you, what makes for a good kiss for you, and also how to have better kissing experiences with people if maybe the kissing isn't there, but like the sex is really good or the relationship is really good or something else. Kissing can make or break things. So
yeah, I would love to kick it off with this. If a kiss isn't exactly how you desire it to be, don't make that mean something it's not. So if you have a kiss with somebody, or maybe you have a style of kissing with your partner that isn't exactly turning you on in the way that you desire, it doesn't fulfill you in the way that you would like to feel after a kiss, that doesn't mean that they're a bad kisser. That doesn't mean that there's no future. It doesn't mean that things in the bedroom are going to be bad by any means. You can absolutely evolve and change. And that's something that I didn't know for a long time and was never talked about. And I have had clients who've told me about first kisses and written a person off. And I'm like, well, hold up a second. Just because you've had one first kiss that was not 10 out of 10, don't make an assumption that that means they're bad in the bedroom or that this person isn't your person because they're not kissing you in the way that you desire. So I think kicking it off there is important. And even if you've been in a relationship with somebody for a long time, you can still evolve your style of kissing. And I think having this conversation with your partner, whatever phase you're at, can just be really beautiful to evolve so that you can be kissed in the way that you desire and fills you up. And same with your kissing partner.
Yeah. I do think of kissing like a dance, and you can kiss anyone, but then when it comes down to like who can you dance well with and what's it smooth with and where do you fit well together, and you can see people who dance together and have like no chemistry and it seems clunky and it looks awkward. But if those people were given, tools or a little bit of guidance or structure or how to be in their body, like that dancing exchange could look totally different. And that's, I think, a beautiful analogy for kissing. I think sometimes people just think they're supposed to be good at it and they just should know. And so when I think of types of kissing, I think of like a slow, sensual, delicate kissing is
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
A personal favorite. It's really tender. It's very romantic.
Yes.
Then I think of on the other end of the spectrum, like really hot, passionate kissing. So, like a lot of tongue, a lot of open mouth, a lot of maybe there's even like gripping of the face, the jaw, the neck,
Oh,
a lot of like cradling of the face, like that kind of bit more like dominant energy with the
yeah.
kissing. And it's very erotic, like it's very hot. That's
Mm.
the word that's going to mind. Do you want to add any other adjectives to that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's many different styles, but there are categories where it is more of a good morning or hello or goodbye, like a warm hug type of a kiss. And then there's the kissing where you're making out. Sorry, where you're like really intentionally making out and it's maybe or maybe not going to lead into something else as perhaps like a style of foreplay or intimacy practice. And then I almost think there's like one a little bit further where, and this is something that I really like, is where you're really like in it and you feel like you want to be claimed. It's like you're going like really deep. You feel like that depth and it's like a little bit more intense, but you couldn't do that all the time because it
Yeah.
would be too much. But when you're feeling like the eroticism and the turn on and you're like, yes, give me more and I'm going to give you more. It's like that extra layer of depth and oomph. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. No, I hear you. And then I think there's that kiss that is a greeting or an I love you kiss. It's the way that, like you said, the morning check in, or you're leaving the home for the day, or you're saying goodbye, or you've just come back to the home, or wherever you're connecting. And it's a point of connection, right? It's like that hug when you meet up with a friend. It's
Mm,
the acknowledgement of someone's presence, and there's like tenderness and care and love in that, but it feels much more of a greeting than erotically charged.
yes. Yes. Which let's talk about this to begin with, because I have spoken to clients about this before where they've got stuck in that category of a peck is how they describe it. Like we kiss, but it's a goodbye and it's a hello and it's a peck. And when I think of that, I think just sometimes when you can get a kiss where the lips are like really pursed and it
Forced.
feels, yeah, it feels like hard. It doesn't feel soft. If that's the only style of kissing that you're doing, probably not going to feel like that juiced up and that
Yeah.
connected. And I've had clients before that say that they're stuck in only that type of kissing. What can happen is with couples, often kissing is step A in a roadmap that leads to a certain point, AKA penetration.
Mhm.
And it's quite common that people can tend to avoid kissing because they think it has to lead to something. And if you're not in the mood for it to lead there for a myriad of reasons, you can end up avoiding kissing. So, what can be really beautiful is create your own distinct styles of kissing, of what you like, maybe fun exercise with your partner, and have different categories and know that you can do certain ones or all of them just as a practice to
Mhm.
enjoy without the goal. The more we can focus on goalless intimacy, goalless connection, goalless sex, the more we really get to be in presence and enjoyment and sensation. So, sharing that, but back to the greeting kiss. What would it be like to have the most connective type of kiss with your partner first thing in the morning and first thing when you see them or when they're leaving the house? How do you want to feel is really important to know. How do you want to feel in that greeting or in that goodbye before you are departing the house. Get really clear on that. And then start to think about what times or when have you experienced that feeling with your partner or with a partner that has brought you that? And what was the type of kissing that really allows you to feel that way?
Yeah. Okay, I love that you mentioned the part about initiating with kissing because I actually have a lot to say on that. So let's
Oh,
totally circle back to that point of
beautiful.
talking about kissing only to lead up to sex because I think this is actually a loop that a lot of couples get stuck in and cut their intimacy off. So let's definitely come back to that a little later in this
Yeah.
episode. Okay. Any other kisses you want to call out? We've got the peck, which is like, oh, the worst. We've
I'd
got the
actually love
greeting.
to share that with a previous partner. They always used to kiss me like that.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, no, one more or two more. Like if they would kiss me like that, I would literally say, I
Try again.
would try again. Like I could not physically, and this was more once I was like more connected to myself and was able to verbalize, how I
Yeah.
was feeling and that kind of thing. Because I would notice this feeling in my body of like almost a contraction.
Mhm.
And I wanted to feel an expansion. I wanted to feel an opening and feel like that feeling of yeah.
Yeah.
And I wasn't being left felt that way. So I would say, no, one more, do it like this, or kiss me in this way. And then the partner would be like, okay, I'm not going to say no to that. And he would do it again. And it would just feel so, so good. So
Yeah.
the peck for me is just, it's just a no.
If someone kisses me like that and they're rushed and they're just doing it out of a formality, I'm like, "Get back here, kiss me like you mean it." Like,
Oh,
I can't stand when I can't feel someone in a
yeah.
moment, and to me, this we can lead into a little bit later when we're talking about initiation, but if you can't feel, like, an open heart in the exchange, I'm like, "I don't fucking want it." Like, I
Yeah.
don't go there with me. I want to feel all of you or none of you at all.
Yeah. I really think this is what sacred sexuality is. It's
Yeah.
about having intimacy as a heart opening practice.
Mhm.
It's really feeling one another, it's being present, being in sensation, being right there and not in your head in a million other places. And we can get really caught into that loop of a physical act only. And sacred sexuality, tantra, like these practices are about presence and about energy and feeling that person. And there's nothing that can make you feel more alive than
Mm.
that, than intimacy and sex in that way. And kissing is such an incredible part of this. So
Yeah.
if you're not feeling juiced up by your kissing, this is maybe your invitation to dive a little bit deeper and get a little bit curious
Yeah.
and bring some shifts into your kissing life.
I love that.
Mm.
The one other kiss I wanted to call out was this quality of kiss that is, um, like I desire more of you,
Mm.
and I think you kind of alluded to that when you're talking about, like, the claiming or that, like, hot, "I need you" energy, and this kiss I feel should be more saved for when you do want something to lead into an erotic moment, but there is more of that energy of craving and desire and lust and passion behind it. And I love that, but I love that as like a make out on the couch, like dry humping in your clothes. Like there is so much passion there.
Mm.
And it's like we could stay in that moment for as long as our bodies desire before moving into anything else. And like the kissing is just so good. That is
Mm.
some of my favorite makeout sessions.
Yeah. On the sofa or specifically or
Yeah, like, I love clothes on kissing where there's
yes.
this charge, like, there is so much sexual tension there, and there's so much wanting and desire and buildup, and just
Mm.
allowing that moment to be dragged out as deep as you want it to go, right? I think, oftentimes when you're having sex when you're older, you cut that period short, and you're like, "Okay, let's just get to it," or, "I've got a laundry list of things to do, so let's just get to having sex, and then that'll be over with," or like I'll get my orgasm and then I'll feel good and we can go to bed or we can carry on with the day or whatever. But that lengthening of a sexual experience where the makeout gets to be long and it gets to feel like you're young again, making out on the couch with someone you
Yeah.
just connected with for the first time. That
Yeah.
feels really fun and playful and there's a lot of eroticism in that for me.
Yeah, I agree. And thinking back to being a teenager, the goal was just to make out, right? Maybe not for all of us. Maybe we progressed into things
At a certain
differently.
point, yeah.
Yeah, at a certain point. But there is that time where you're first exploring sexuality and connection with another person, and you're just making out and you're kissing. Back then, I would kiss a lot of people. Like, I loved kissing and would regularly kiss many people in one night at like 16 years old. And it was so fun because you knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. And yet you would have this fun and this connection with different people and explore different styles and different flavors. And it was just such a fun practice. And yeah, I think we can forget about those days because there's so much more on the menu. But that is that really important ingredient. If you're having a 7-course meal, you're intentionally being served with the first small dish to set you up for the rest of the things on the menu. And it's the same thing with sex. You cannot just go straight to penetration. There's so many more things that you have to do to whet the appetite and to get the palate cleansed and to get the body ready to receive that final beautiful dish on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing here. And sometimes you're so full by the time the final dish comes that you're like, you know what? I don't desire it in this moment. And that's okay. Same thing here.
Yeah.
All right. So, can we talk about kissing styles just a little bit more? Because I have one more thing to share about this. I used to think there was only one style of kissing and that you either gelled with someone and were able to kiss together or you didn't. And I have had partners in the past where everything was perfect, but the kissing wasn't there. And I would avoid kissing because it wasn't filling me up because they had a different kissing style to me.
Yeah.
And they were basically going from like 0 to 100 really quick. So often they would get into that really like deep, intense, like very tonguey, like heads being moved to the side, let's get deep style of kissing. And I wasn't there yet. And so I wasn't responding in the way that they desired, and they weren't giving it to me in the way that I desired. And I put that down to they're not a very good kisser, or we just don't gel and it's not going to work for us. And it was such a shame to feel that sense of avoidance whenever kissing was started, because I was like, oh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to have that feeling of unfulfillment and just like feeling a little bit sticky, because I had these meanings in my mind around what the stories coming up around us, and it would almost create a sense of disconnection versus connection. So this is why I think it's really important to have these conversations with your friends, to have these conversations with your partners around what you like, around what fills you up, and when you're ready for certain things. And the more you can have these conversations, the more you'll get to know this about your partner, and it will become more effortless. But make sure that you're reading the same menu so that you're choosing from the same dishes of what you want that evening. That's going to create the most connection and fulfillment in in your kissing.
Yeah, I think one of the most underrated sex tips is for when you're engaging with a feminine essence body is to slowly build in everything,
Yes.
like in kissing, in sexual energy, in sexual acts, like allowing everything to slow build and stretching it out, almost if you had a timeline and just like giving it so much more space and allowing everything to be like this gradual build to this peak, I think is underrated. We need to do that more. We need to start out with the sensual, start out with the quieter kissing and allow her body to open and you to watch and be in tune to what's happening there, and then her to lead into what could be more expanded or juicy or her turned on and hot.
Yeah. One of the best things that any human can do, but especially for our masculine partners, is to become really attuned to the feminine body, to really observe every flinch, every facial expression, every little sound and slight adjustment in body language and posture, because that is her body speaking to you. Sometimes we don't have words for it, or we don't have the awareness in our mind. The body is always speaking in intimate moments. Two things to say here. One, I'll never forget the first John Wineland workshop I did. We got to witness a couple, or we would witness this many times. He would be guiding a couple through a tantric practice, and it was amazing to watch, and then to have him basically analyze in that moment. There was it was a couple, it was actually a couple are quite well known.
That's
Yeah,
it.
it was even more cool to see that. And the she sort of had this micro moment where he was doing something, and she, for a millisecond, flinched. There was like a slight closure. It was so minute, but John was like, "Did you see that? Like, that was her closing off, and you didn't notice that." And she was closed, and then you tried to go further, and she'd shut down, and you needed to soften her and to allow her to reopen, because she didn't even have the awareness of it, but it was just a slight moment. And it blew my mind, because I had no idea how much our bodies were communicating to one another in intimacy, in sex, in life, but really in these moments. So deeply attuned to your partner, and especially for masculine beings or people who are more in their masculine, like really give yourself that invitation to just like watch and observe, because a woman's body is always going to be giving you signals and communicating to you. The other piece, this analogy that is really helpful to understand the differences between men and women's bodies, they are very, very different. Very, very different. Men, especially when it comes to sexuality and arousal, they're like fire, and women are like water. So you can just flip a match and it's lit like that. It takes seconds for the fire to be present. Or you turn fire on a stove, like it's not long before it's ready. Whereas if you have a pan of water, that's going to take you a little bit of time for that water to reach boiling. And that is a woman's arousal. It takes time. It's slow. You can't rush the process. As much as you try and you turn the heat up and you're like, how quickly can I get this water to boil? There is a process that it has to go through. There is time, and that cannot be bypassed. So bearing that in mind is really, really helpful to know that there's not anything wrong with you. We just haven't been taught in this way around our bodies and around arousal. And let's just give ourselves permission to slow the fuck down in this fast-paced, busy, go, go, go world that we live in. Can we allow ourselves to find slowness in everything we're doing, especially when it comes to sexuality? Because that is where the magic really lies.
Yeah. I love that even in this conversation, we have these little codes, like these little nuggets of sexuality and creating really great sex. And it's all in the name of describing kissing. And I think that that's the jewel of this whole episode is like kissing is way more than
Mm,
quote unquote just kissing, right?
mm.
And I think that that's so cool. It's building in this episode alone.
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. Another thing when it comes to kissing, and this is something that I've recommended to clients a lot in the past when there's been struggles or challenges around sex, around performance, or around the lack of desire, and there's just like that piece of intimacy that's missing between them, stickiness around the act of sex. I'll often tell them to take sex off the table in terms of actual penetration. Take it off the table for 7 days or 30 days and just go back to touching and kissing for that period of time and watch what happens. When you know that there's nothing that's coming next, you only have that act of touching and kissing to explore with and play with, you're going to get pretty creative. You're going to have the time to feel, to learn different strokes and different touches and sensations in the body and in your partner's body around what they like. And there's so much magic and so much intimacy in just touch and just kissing.
Do you have any other types of kisses that you want to touch on?
Body kisses. So there's
Mm.
kissing, there's the mouth kissing, but different types of kisses on the body.
Mhm.
So, you know how there's more ones that are like a warm hug, like a forehead kiss or a cheek kiss, that can still be a really connective practice. And when you're in these other categories of like morning check in or goodbye, what if you weaved one of those into those moments where you're saying goodbye to your partner and it's like there's like a neck, like a gentle like neck suckle or like neck kiss as you're walking out the door? How juicy would that be? um Yeah, I think different types of body kisses, because that again can be something that is only reserved for the path of A to B in foreplay or before penetrative sex. And there's so much magic in slow, sensual kisses on the body, like on the collarbone, on the chest, on the shoulder, on the hands. You have an entire body that can be explored through kissing. And again, it comes down to that slowness. Sometimes I've had many, many experiences where somebody's kissing my body, but it's only to get to point B, aka the puss. They're not really doing it to like be there in the intentionality of just like the experience of kissing my body. They're doing it to get to a different place. And you can feel that. You can feel someone's presence with you.
Yeah, one of my favorite kisses is getting kissed on the shoulder, actually. I love it.
Oh,
And I mean, my neck is such an erotic place to be
yeah.
kissed. And I think of this in the context of like sitting in a bathing suit out by a
Mm,
pool or at the beach or like on vacation. And it's your partner like getting up to go somewhere and then kissing you on the shoulder like before leaving. I just think that is like, ugh, to me, it just makes me melt. So.
how do you feel?
Yeah, like pussy tingles, like heart open, like I just feel cared for. It's kind of like that forehead kiss, but a little bit more sexual.
Yes.
Like it's so close to that area I want it to be
Yeah.
in, right? It's like if your thigh were to be kissed before
Mm.
someone went down on you, it's like that
Mm.
buildup. Like, but it's in this moment in my mind is in these moments where you're relaxed and you're in this state of being outside or being in a bikini and like there's sexiness in that alone
Yeah.
and then just being greeted with that kiss on the shoulder. I
Yeah.
love that I'm wearing like an off the shoulder top too today and I'm talking about that, but
She's
yeah, like
ready.
shoulder or
She's
like
ready for a
yeah, upper
kiss.
back. Please come smooch me. Mhm. Do you have a
Mm.
favorite place on your body other than your lips?
Neck,
Yeah.
for sure, but also collarbone, like
Yeah.
on the chest, but above the
Boobs.
breast. Yeah, where it's like it feels soft and sensual, and it's yeah, kind of over the heart space. Is like whoa, because
Yeah.
it's close to the lips, which are super sensitive and super juicy. I mean, that's another great place to be kissed,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think these things are underrated.
Mhm.
Weave them
So
in.
good. Yeah, I don't know if I said this on the podcast yet or not, but I used to like have no sensation in my boobs and
Mm,
my nips, and I wouldn't really care to have them engaged with or sucked on or anything. Like it wouldn't really do anything to my body. And when I started a breast massage practice, I awoke into all the sensation in them, and now I
mm.
love like my boobs. I could probably have an orgasm from my nips being engaged with. Like
Yes.
it has become so alive and so sensual and so activating. So yeah, that's just a little shit.
Nipplegasm.
Mhm.
Get on that nipplegasm.
Yeah. So good.
I think, thank you for sharing that, because this is a very, very common experience. Here's a thing with the body, especially a woman's body. When we've experienced so many experiences in life, so much trauma and medical trauma, and perhaps experiences where you've said yes, but it was a no in the body. And those can be even micro experiences to larger traumatic experiences. Our body starts to shut down, our body starts to close off, and we can become numb and disconnected from these areas in our body. We all have the potential to expand our pleasure capacity as humans, as women, and in these different parts of our body through practices like de-armoring practices and self-loving, nurturing practices that are based on the foundation of presence and touch and care and connection with these parts of our body. When you can equip yourself with the tools and the skills to do so, and the support and the time and the patience, you open yourself up to the possibility of experiencing so much more than you ever knew was possible in your body. Breasts being an example of that, the G spot, the cervix, all of these parts and more of a woman's body have the potential for gasmic experiences. So the invitation is for you to get curious about what could be possible in your body and what stories have you and beliefs have you living with for perhaps your whole life that you're open to perhaps shifting or changing in some way. And the nipples are a prime example of that for women. So many women I've worked with have said, I have no sensitivity whatsoever. There's no pleasure in there for me. And a simple yet profound practice like a breast massage can really awaken and open up to so much. And I know even for myself, I've always had some sensitivity there and enjoyed the act of touch and kissing on the nips. However, since going on this journey of sacred sexuality and exploring and doing breast massage and other practices, the pleasure is beyond what I could ever have imagined. I could have just a whole hour of just nipple pleasure and breast massage, and I would be very happy and very, very fulfilled, because to me it's actually at the moment I'm getting going through a phase of getting more pleasure and enjoyment from my nips than from my clitoris, which is
Cool.
wild. Yeah, it's just a phase that I'm in, but it's really interesting because the clit's always been so sensitive and such the main source of pleasure for me. And now it's kind of shifted and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. What
Mhm.
else? What's the next season going to be and what else is going to be possible? So it's just, the body's just fascinating. And knowing that ebbs and flows are the nature of being a human. And when it comes to sex and intimacy, that is just natural, that there's going to be ups and downs, ebbs and flows. There's going to be seasons for everything.
Mhm. Love it. Okay, let's go into some kissing tips.
Should we do best and worst kiss?
Sure.
Let's have a little personal chat to give some insight into some of our best and worst first kisses, because not all kisses are made equal. And I am excited to share a little bit around one of the worst first kisses that I had, which ended up being with a guy that I dated for 2 months after that. And things really shifted. It was such a great lesson for me of how it starts is not how it's going to go. And let's not write the guy off, because it actually came down to communication
Yeah.
and him making an assumption about something that I said, which I'll tell you. And he then kissed me in a way that he thought I wanted. It was not. So, for context, it was a guy that I dated post separation, and it was a very beautiful, healing, incredible process. We dated for 2 months and we had an amazing first date. I think it was like a 4 hour, one of those first dates. It's beautiful connection. And at the end, there were a couple of drinks involved, which I have different opinions about that now. But he went in for the kiss, and I had got a little bit, because of the lubrication, aka the margaritas, I had got a little bit flirty, a little bit sassy, like maybe a little bit suggestive, but whilst teetering on the line of not going too far. And so I'd been making jokes about like kinky things and BDSM and things like that without actually saying anything. So he made the assumption that because I said I like to be submissive and I'm into like being dominated, he made the assumption that that meant I like it really rough and intense. So the first kiss was a very intense experience of too much too fast in the mouth, and it was a little bit of a shock to the system because this nervous system was not prepared for that level of intensity. I needed that slow, soft, sensual, warm hug build up for a first kiss with this person. And they went to like level 10 right away. And I was like, whoa, what is this? This is not what I desired. And we ended up talking about it a little bit later on, I think maybe even on the second or third date. And I told him how I like to be kissed. I explained to him, I want to be kissed in this way. And he was very receptive. And he was like, okay, great. Like I made this assumption based on what you had shared. And that's why I went in that way. And it was such a cool experience to have this conversation with a muggle man, AKA not in this world whatsoever, just like your typical man who doesn't live in this world. Yeah, he was really open and receptive. And we ended up being able to have really beautiful kissing, and he was a really great kisser, and we got into the different styles. So it was just a great lesson for me of communication and openness and playfulness in the expression of desires. And that's just so powerful and beautiful, because I could have written him off right away after that. And even the first time that we got a little bit intimate past the kissing and sex, it wasn't good. And it was not good, but it got a lot better from there. So you can't
Mm,
write someone off, but you have to communicate. Don't expect people to know what you want and what you desire if you're not telling them.
yeah. Ooh, I love that. Okay, I think for me, the worst kiss that I remember was pretty young, but it's really funny, and so I want to bring it here. But I'm sure there have been more in more recent time. But for me, I'm someone that I love the dopamine of a first kiss. So even if it's like not 100% very good, the build up and the novelty of it and whatever, I can make it good
Mm.
in my mind. So I will tell you that
Wow.
about
Okay.
me. Yeah.
I love it.
Um just the moment of kind of tension that comes before it alone is very playful for me. So anyway, I'll take you all the way back to when I was at camp as a kid. Not a kid, I was like a young teenager. I was maybe like 14. And there was this guy at camp, and he was a skater boy, and that was my vibe back then. I really loved a boy with long hair, skateboarded, into the skater shoes and the baggy pants. And this guy's name was Levi. And we ended up kissing. So we kind of like flirted all week long at camp. And then on the closing night ceremonies, they had this show for the campers. And we were sitting on the hill in the grass together, and we ended up kissing. And
Was this
I
your
think
first kiss ever?
no.
Okay.
I think because I had built it up to be something in my mind,
Mm.
and because there was the flirting that was back and forth, and my friends were like, "Oh, Jenna and Levi, like right."
Mm.
Um, he had braces, so let's just give context to the
Hot. We
situation.
love that.
Also, I had braces.
Oh. Oh my god.
Um, there was a lot of tongue really fast. There was the braces involved. There was lip like cutting. But then I think at one point he was like missing my mouth and trying to tongue the side of my cheek. I was like, okay, no, this is not fun. I'm not enjoying this. And it's not comfortable. So, by far the worst kiss I've ever had.
That sounds
Sorry,
traumatic.
Levi. Yeah.
There's hope. I'm sure Levi at this age has mastered the art of kissing. Let's hope.
Thriving. So funny. He wrote a song, and I think he had it on like SoundCloud or something like that after, because he was also a skater boy, but also had a guitar. And he had written, or was in a band, I guess. And he had written a song, and I remember my friends and I and my sister dissecting the lyrics of the song, and being like, "Is this about me? Like, was this about the kiss on the hill?"
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my
Anyway,
god. I'm curious, what age were you when you had your first kiss?
um, maybe 12.
Damn.
Yeah.
She was young.
Yeah, I was exploring early. But I was
Wow.
making out with my friends that were girls before then. Like, my first kisses were with my friends that I had sleepovers with,
How old?
like, around that age, like, at 11,
Wow.
12. Yeah.
Okay.
All my first, like, intimate experiences were with girls.
No
Making out.
way.
Yeah.
I didn't know this about you.
Yeah.
Fluid from an early age.
Just open girl, yeah.
I love it. I think that's
Mm,
beautiful.
mm.
Wow. And so what age did you lose your V?
16.
Okay. That's quite
Yeah.
old considering you had a lot of years of
Yeah,
play.
smooching. Yeah,
Love
it
that.
definitely was, like, just kissing for a long time, but
Yeah.
kissing was there, and then I think so I started dating my boyfriend that I lost my virginity to at 16. I started dating him when I was 15, and, he was older than me. He was 4 years older than me, and his parents were really big on age of consent. So, his parents were pushing that down our throats of being like, "Don't do anything until she's 16." So anyway, when I turned 16,
Game over.
I turned 16 on May 30th, and then we had sex on June 19th.
That's quite a while actually. That's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
extra surprise it wasn't like June 1st. You're like
Let's get down to business. Also live with our parents, right? You had to be like find that
yeah.
time.
Yeah. True.
Mm.
That's fair. Wow. Well, I was 15 when I had my first kiss.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah. Yep. It was
Was it
a
with a crush, a boyfriend? What was the vibe?
No, it wasn't a boyfriend. Who are we kidding? It was in the park at night. We used to like hang out at the park with like,
Yeah.
I think we had like coolers or like what they call like alcohol pops, like Smirnoff Ice vibes.
Okay.
So it'd be like dark in the summer. And I actually think it was with a boy that my friend liked, but we ended up kissing and it was good. I actually did that quite a lot at 15, 16. I was really into kissing and it would happen frequently that I would kiss boys that my friends were into. And it would,
Steph.
I know it caused some drama, but now I look back and I'm like, look, you do that at that age and you have that really shitty feeling and conflict and you overcome it. And hopefully you don't do it again later in life. So I definitely had experiences like that. I was really, yeah, really into kissing. But yeah, I was 15. It was good. It was really fun. I remember enjoying it.
Do you remember your best kiss ever?
I mean, I have a really good first kiss story, but which was actually from last year. So because I was in relationships for my whole 20s, I was only kissed two people in my 20s. Like it was I've had a lot of kisses pre that, but I wasn't as intentional then as now. So one of my best first kiss stories, actually, I went on this first date with a guy. He was Latino and we had the sexiest first date ever. We went out for dinner. We went to a Greek restaurant. He was like, I love dancing. So do you want to go out dancing? And let's just bear in mind, I look back and I cringe now because I was like pretty fresh out of the separation, going through divorce. I was not feeling my best self. Like I was still in dysregulation. I wasn't feeling like the sexiest, wasn't in the vibes that I would be in now. Anyway, we went to this Latino dancing kind of place and there was like music and he didn't drink and I wasn't drinking either. So completely sober, but we were dancing and it was a very sexual experience. It was so hot because he was basically like moving me around and touching my body and like the hips and the hands were everywhere. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so sexual. I was getting so turned on and we didn't do anything. But then I was like, I really obviously want to kiss him. So there was just so much sexual tension and yeah, the touching and the way he was moving me. So it just felt like I was just surrendering and he was just like in control of my body. So we went, I don't know if I went in for the kiss, but it was like we were facing each other and it was about to happen. And it was just so hot, so sensual because that buildup was there, but also the fact that we were complete strangers and didn't know each other at all, apart from the couple hours we'd spent together. I literally was melting and I was so turned on. Went home. I was just like, oh my God, that was one of the best first dates ever because it was so different and so sexual. Anyway, never saw him again. It was, yeah, he was just one of those guys that was like, you plan the second date. And I was like, not really the way it works. I desire a man that can take control, lead a little bit more. I'm not going to plan the second date. So he then never applied.
Fair.
It was a little bit wishy-washy even getting to that point. Like we'd made a plans and then he kind of cancelled and it was just like a little bit weird. And I was like, okay. But it's hard. It's hard when you've had, and this is where I think people get caught up, when you've had such an incredible like sexual connective experience. It can be hard in your mind. You think, wow, that was so good. But sometimes when it's that passionate and that sexual so early on, sometimes that's just like a recipe for disaster. And I was like, I'm definitely being saved here from this experience. Like it was not meant to go any further. It was just a beautiful time that I am happy that I got to, that I got to have. Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I've had so many experiences pop up in my mind, like as you're sharing and as we're thinking about this. It's really funny to go down this memory lane, and I haven't done this. I don't know if ever, but in a very long time, thought about some of these earlier experiences in my life and how they shape the way in which you think about kissing.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share?
This isn't best, but there's this like just really funny experience. I was in the Dominican Republic. I was on a family vacation and I was under 16. I don't know how old I was exactly. But I ended up kissing this is fully illegal too, what I'm going to share, but anyway. I ended up kissing the resort photographer who was this beautiful man from Spain. And he did all of the family shots and stuff.
Of your family.
Yeah, actually he did. Yeah. Me and my sister got connected with one of the staff of the resort, and then I got connected with the photographer, and we went out late one night and I ended up kissing this guy on one of the pool loungers by the water. And I think this man was like 30 plus.
And you were 16. You were under
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
Well, look, good for you. I mean,
So
that's impressive.
yeah, and he kept trying to go further, and I was like, "No, like I haven't. I for sure was under 15 because I wasn't with that boyfriend and I hadn't had sex yet." And he
Wow.
was like trying to touch my boob and trying to like go farther, and I was like, "No, like I'm a baby." But it was a really good kiss. Like he was a very good kisser,
Wow. Oh my God.
and it's
That's
just what
wild.
like those horny teen dreams are made of.
Yeah. For you, that's like, I feel like that's a real achievement. For him, hashtag creeper. Very
Yeah,
inappropriate. Probably shouldn't be working at a hotel, and don't
yeah,
think you'd be getting away with that in this
for
day and age.
sure should be
Hopefully
fired.
not.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Fired and yeah, and
I
other
don't know if
things.
we'll keep this in the episode. It's fucked.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my other best kiss was my first kiss with my ex of a really long time, and I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. But it was good.
Yeah, it was a really good first kiss.
Oh.
And the build up to it was like really beautiful.
Okay, you can just leave it there. It was a beautiful kiss. There was tension, there was build up. It's okay. We got it.
Done.
We love that for you though.
Okay,
Beautiful.
let's move on from best kiss.
Yeah.
This is 52
How
minutes
to
in.
communicate about kissing.
Yeah.
So it's like anything when it comes to sex. You communicate in a way I desire or I would love or remember that time. That's a great way of sharing what you want without being like, I don't like when you shove your tongue down my throat and grab me really intensely when we've just seen each other for the first time in 2 days. It's like, hey, baby, I would love to be kissed in that slow, sensual way where I really feel your presence and feel you here with me. Or I would love for you to kiss me softly in this moment. I'm feeling a little bit tender. I would love soft kisses. Or you could be like, recall a memory. Do you remember that time when we were at the hotel in the DR and we were sitting by the pool and you grabbed my neck and pulled me in? Oh, that was so hot. Would love to experience that again. Memories and moments that you've loved, really reinforcing times where it's felt really good. So powerful and it's fun and it's sexy. So, the best tip for communicating is to really avoid any shaming language, to avoid saying things that you don't like because it's so sensitive and it's so tender and it's so vulnerable. And I know I have had actually an experience once where somebody told me something they didn't like that I was doing, or no, they wanted a desire. They were like, I want you to use more tongue in the way you're kissing me here, like on their body. But the way that they phrased it made me feel like I was doing something wrong and I was bad. And I still almost have that feeling in my body. And it just was so uncomfortable that it didn't make me feel good versus them being like, I would love if you kiss me in this way. Let me show you. Hot, beautiful, amazing. So anything to avoid the shaming or making somebody feel bad, because that's not going to get you the outcome that you desire. That can lead to more shame and avoidance and just like stickiness and perhaps resentment between one another.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my favorite ways to communicate for kissing is with body language and then with like hot short phrases. So if I'm receiving a kiss that feels like a bit too tonguey and passionate and I'm like wanting it slower, I'll pull back and create almost like some space between our faces. So like bringing a little pressure to their chest and like raising my body if I'm on top or whatever. And creating some space, and then also going down their like side of the face and down the side of their neck with that like slow, sensual, delicate kissing is like a good way of kind of modeling what you're interested in and then bringing it back to their lips like after you've brought that sensation there,
Mm.
or pushing back and being like, I want it blank, like give it to me blank. So if you're getting it really slow and sensual, but you want it to be more erotic and passionate, then being like, kiss me like you mean it, like I said earlier, or tell me how bad you're craving me, or something a little like cheeky. And obviously use your tonation to make that. Is tonation a word? Tonality.
Tonality, yeah.
Use your tonality to make that phrase really erotic. That's really one of my favorite ways to communicate, and slow it
Mm.
down or pick up the pace with your cheeky commands.
Yeah. Tonality is everything. You can say anything to anybody. The tone in which you express it is going to determine the way that it's received. So be aware of that and really get playful with that, bringing softness and love and a lightness into what you're communicating so that it's received in the way that you're intending it to create the outcome that you're desiring. AKA, you want to be kissed in a soft way or a deep way. And I love the pulling back and essentially showing that person what you're desiring without using words. If words feel challenging or a little bit sticky or vulnerable in the moment, use your body and show them, or give them an example. And you can even show them, show and tell, kiss them in the way and be like, I want you to kiss me in that same way now. So play with it, have fun with it, and trust that you have the skills and the capacity to express what you're desiring and you deserve to, and that it will be received in a positive light. And you just get to trial and error what works for you and what works for your partner, and the best style of communication, whether that is through words or body language or experience.
Yeah, amazing.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I would love to include some hygiene tips.
Yeah, please.
I feel very passionate about oral hygiene. And as you know from, I think I shared this in a previous episode about my mom who said, no
Yeah,
matter how hot you are, you can get laid if you have good oral hygiene. So it runs in my family.
clearly.
And then if you want to circle back to the part about initiating with kissing, I just have one tip for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of oral hygiene, I believe in a 3-step model.
I'm excited for this.
Look at how beautiful my smile is, okay?
Stunning. Yeah, you obviously know what you're talking about.
I
Give it
worked
to
hard on
us.
I worked hard
Yeah.
on this. If you're not tongue scraping, everybody needs to be tongue scraping, okay?
Facts. I feel very strongly about that too.
Yeah. If you aren't removing the buildup from your tongue, your breath just isn't gonna be as nice. It's not gonna be fresh. It's gonna have something going on. And there's nothing worse than someone sticking out their tongue and seeing those fuzzies or looking gray or looking white. It's
No.
gross. It's gross, gross,
Ew.
gross, right?
That's
So,
horrible.
getting a really good quality tongue scraper and scraping your morning first thing in the morning and before you go to bed at night, or before a date too, right? Freshening up. It's so, so good for your oral care. And especially if you breathe through your mouth when you sleep, the amount that you'll take off your tongue in the morning is wild. So, mouth or tongue scraping is beautiful and super helpful. Second is flossing. Super important to floss. Where the stink is coming from is either your tongue or in between your teeth. Okay? You can brush, 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 but if you're not flossing, you're not actually removing the things that are causing the odor inside of the teeth. So floss well, floss at night, every night, please. And before a date, you can floss before a date too. And then the trifecta is brushing well. And I feel passionately about using a electric toothbrush and using something that does a little bit more thorough than a manual toothbrush. You can use a manual toothbrush if you need to, but throw them out often and use them in, you can Google like from a dental hygienist or dentist, like how to effectively brush your teeth with a manual toothbrush. There's angles to it, there's a skill to it, but a sonic toothbrush makes it a lot faster. So that's going to actually clean the teeth well and the gums and keep everything happy and healthy. So those are my triple recommendations for oral care for good kissing, because nothing's worse than getting into a kiss and there being bad breath.
Yeah.
It's going to kill the vibe. It's going to kill the moment.
It really is going to kill the moment. Or coffee breath.
Yeah.
No. Have,
Wine breath.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything breath, just
Yeah.
no. So also just be aware, like have some gum or a mint or something refreshing in your mouth, because that can also make you feel more relaxed and present, knowing that you taste good. You're as fresh as can be. If it's after a date, pop a little something in the mouth, you feel going to feel good, because it can be something that makes you feel insecure about, and that's going to take you out of the moment. So do what you got to do, get the tongue ready. But I'm going to second that tongue scraping is life changing.
I'm not trying to be dramatic. It is.
No, it
It is.
is. It is. Everybody, like I try and convert as many people as possible into the act of tongue scraping, because you just feel fresh. Like you feel so good.
Yeah.
Getting rid of
There's
all the
also
gunk.
more benefits than just good breath. Like we're talking your gut health, we're talking your actual cardiovascular health as well when you take care of your oral care. There is so many benefits to removing that bacteria in your
Yeah.
mouth that is wild how much it benefits.
Yeah. And make sure you
Now,
do it before water. So it's the first thing. You
yeah.
get up, you go to the bathroom, and before you got your morning pee, you're scraping that tongue, you're spitting it out, you're getting all that gunk. Your body has spent the last 6, 7, 8 hours pulling all of the toxins out of the body. They're a layer on top of the tongue. Why would you swallow that? That's not what we want to be swallowing, okay? We do not swallow that. We spit it out. We get rid of it. And just feels fresh in the morning.
Okay.
All right.
Just had to get that in there. Okay, let's circle back to initiating with kissing, and initiation being the gateway, kissing being the gateway into sex. If the only time you're approaching your partner for a smooch or for some type of lip action is when you want to have sex, you're going to create a calloused response with that. And the kissing won't be as affectionately received, if that is it, because they'll feel like the kissing is a prerequisite into then having sex. So one of my favorite sex therapists, Vanessa Marin, and her husband Xander, they have a sexual education business together, and they talk about having a 1 minute open mouth smooch a day and having that as a connection point in throughout their day, before, when they get into bed or in the morning. It doesn't matter when it is, but this moment where you come together and you kiss and you have tongue and you have that hot moment of a kiss, but without it leading to anything, and getting in the practice of having smooches that are longer and open mouth. And Rosie Reese, who's also a sex educator from Australia, she does this with her partner, and they share that. It's really important to have open mouth kissing that's outside of sexual dynamics. So try it.
Yeah.
Invitation
Try it.
kiss.
Try it, because your relationship depends on the intimacy and connection that you have, and not just for the happiness and long-term success of the relationship, but your relationship impacts everything. It impacts your health, your success in life, how you show up in the world, your nervous system. And so it really is your responsibility to ensure you've got a regulated nervous system, that you're doing everything you can. And if you're choosing to spend your life with somebody, you really have to focus on that connection and continuing to build that intimacy and continuing to get to know each other, even if you've been together for decades. You can't let that connection drop. That romance, that eros is really part of life, and it's really part of relationship. And you'll be a better, happier, healthier, and more successful human being when you have a deep connection with your partner. Kissing is one really powerful yet simple way that you can ensure that you experience that. So we hope that you've enjoyed this episode. We hope that you've maybe learned something, or you're getting a little bit curious about what else you can weave into your kissing. We can get so monotonous with sex and just doing the same thing and kissing in the same way. And there's just more to everything in the sexual world and on the sexual menu that than most of us were taught. So hopefully this has opened your eyes. It's going to open your mouth to possibilities and potentials of what kissing could be for you. So we hope you have got value from this. Let us know.
And that example that Steph gave earlier about taking up the table and having kissing experiences that are just for kissing is a really hot practice. So if you want to take whatever you want from this episode and go to your partner and be like, let's make out and challenge ourselves to not have it lead into sex, and see how hot and turned on you can make your partner with when there's sex off the table, right? Like how juicy and expanded and how open you can get their body and have it be a little bit of a game, gamify it and make it playful and fun,
Mm.
and just see where that night takes you from that experience and take any of the things that we have shared in this episode that you feel like you want to give a try, the communication or the body language bits, and give it a whirl.
Enjoy, people. We love you.
Yes, we love you so much. Thank you so much for being here and for hanging out with us and listening to this episode. This will be our last episode for the year. We will catch up with you in 2025 for more pleasure goodness. So stay tuned. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. We will see you soon.